I'm Martha. Standing in my study, I stared at the document in my hands, a quit-claim deed that should have been nothing but a piece of paper, but instead, it felt like a wrecking ball to my life. The deed, dated 6 weeks before my wedding, showed my house being transferred to Vivian Thompson, my husband's mother. And the signature on it? My husband, Ryan Thompson's, not mine. It was a Wednesday afternoon. I had come home to grab a forgotten set of site plans for an early Thursday meeting. The house was empty. Ryan was at work, and Vivian had gone for a hair appointment. As I was about to leave the study after finding my plans, I noticed the filing cabinet drawer slightly ajar. I'm the kind of person who notices these things. I place objects with intention and remember their placement. When I opened the drawer fully, I found a manila envelope at the back, pushed against the metal panel. My hands shook as I opened it. It took me 3 readings to understand what I was looking at. The realization hit me like a cold wave. It felt like the moment when a building collapses, and the dust is yet to settle. I was shaking deep inside, but my hands were steady as I held the document. I sat on the floor for about 4 minutes, then I took 3 steps. I photographed every page of the document, put it back exactly where I found it, and called my father. My father, Henry Lewis, is a retired corporate lawyer. He's 68 years old, an avid fisherman, and has a sharp mind. When I told him what I'd found, there was a long silence on the phone. Then he said calmly, "Don't confront anyone tonight. Don't move the document. Tomorrow morning, come to me, and we'll see a friend of mine." His calm voice was both reassuring and terrifying, as I knew he only used that tone when things were serious. Let me take you back to the beginning. I'm an architect, and I've always been meticulous in my work, double-checking every detail before finalizing a design. I saved for 8 years to buy my house on Elmwood Drive. It was a charming 2-story house with a large front yard and a porch that I loved. I remember the first time I walked through it on a sunny spring day. Standing in the living room, I felt a sense of belonging, like I'd finally found my place. I met Ryan 6 months after I moved in. He was a software engineer, tall and charming, with a calm demeanor that I mistook for reliability. We dated for 2 years. He proposed on the porch at sunset, and I said yes before he could finish his sentence. Vivian came to our engagement dinner. She brought a bouquet of roses, which I didn't particularly like, as I'd mentioned once that I preferred wildflowers. She wore an elegant purple dress and a smile that never quite reached her eyes. She called me dear with a frequency that made me feel like I was being sized up. Ryan squeezed my hand under the table when she commented that the house was a nice starter home, and I thought it was a sign of support. Now I know it was an apology. Our wedding was small, with about 50 guests in a beautiful garden. Vivian sat in the front row in a white dress that was more bridal than mine. She cried during the vows, and I thought it was out of maternal love. Looking back, I realize it was something else. Ryan held my hands during the ceremony, and I felt safe. But that feeling lasted only a few days. After our short honeymoon at a mountain cabin, we came home. The house smelled of pine and the candles I kept in the bedroom. Ryan was quiet on the drive back, and I thought it was post-wedding fatigue. The next morning, I was sipping coffee by the window, thinking about some garden plans, when I heard a car in the driveway. It was Vivian's. She got out, pulled 2 large suitcases from the trunk, and walked into the house as if she owned it. Ryan came downstairs already dressed. He kissed me on the cheek and said, "Mom's going to stay with us for a little while, until her housing situation gets sorted." I asked how long a little while was, but he didn't give me a clear answer. Vivian greeted me with a smile and said, "Dear, I hope I'm not imposing." I forced a smile and said it was okay, thinking that I was part of a new family and should be accommodating. The first week was a series of small intrusions. Vivian took the guest room I'd planned to use as a home office. She rearranged the room, put up some of her paintings, and filled the air with a strong perfume. She cooked dinner a few times without asking, using ingredients I didn't like. She also started asking me questions about my finances and the house, like whether I'd considered refinancing. I tried to convince myself that she was just anxious about her housing situation. I thought Ryan would talk to her, and things would settle down. But then, on a Thursday, I came home early from work. The house was quiet. I went to the study for a glass of water and found Vivian sitting at my desk, looking through my filing cabinet. When she saw me, she didn't look caught, she looked inconvenienced. She said she was looking for a pen. I noticed a yellow sticky note on the first page of my deed. It was blank, but it felt like a threat. That night, I couldn't sleep. I started to keep a notebook, recording every incident, every question she asked, and Ryan's responses. A few days later, Ryan brought home a packet of papers from the bank. He said it was just to update our household financial records after marriage. I was tired and trusted him, so I skimmed the papers and signed where he told me to. After finding the quit-claim deed, I realized that what I'd signed might be part of their plan. My father's friend, Lisa Chen, a real estate attorney with 25 years of experience, examined the situation. She found that the quit-claim deed was not legally valid without my signature, but it showed an active plan. She also discovered that the papers I'd signed were a limited power of attorney, giving Ryan the authority to make financial and property decisions on my behalf. I called in sick to work and went to the bank with my father. The branch manager, a nervous man named Tom, pulled up my account. I found out that I'd unknowingly given Ryan the power to control my property. That evening, I made dinner as if nothing had happened. Vivian commented on the food, and Ryan asked about my day. I answered politely, but inside, I was planning my next move. The next morning, I changed the locks before they woke up. When Vivian tried her key and it didn't work, she looked at me with a shocked expression. I told her I'd replaced the lock because the old one was worn out. I invited my friend Lily, a family law paralegal, to my house that evening as a witness. When she arrived, Ryan and Vivian were in the living room. I sat them down at the kitchen table and showed them the photos of the quit-claim deed. I asked for an explanation. Vivian tried to explain that it was a protective measure for the family's future, but her words sounded hollow. Ryan just sat there, avoiding my eyes. I listed all the things I knew: Ryan signing the deed without my consent, Vivian going through my files, and the power of attorney I'd unknowingly signed. Vivian tried to gaslight me, saying I was being dramatic. But Lily pulled out her laptop and showed all the notes she'd taken. Vivian's composure started to crack. After an hour of her trying to justify their actions, I asked Vivian to leave the house that night. She was surprised, as if she'd never thought I'd actually do it. Ryan didn't say much to stop her. The following week, Lisa filed a formal complaint with the county assessor's office. The bank confirmed that no transactions had been made under the power of attorney, and the county opened an investigation. Vivian hired an attorney, who sent a letter claiming it was a misunderstanding from a well-intentioned estate planning exercise. But the evidence was clear. Ryan moved out 2 weeks after Vivian left. We had an honest conversation. He told me that Vivian had approached him a year into our relationship with a plan to secure their family's future. He'd initially agreed, thinking she wouldn't act on it. But by the time he realized she was serious, he felt trapped. He apologized, and I believed him, but it wasn't enough. Vivian faced legal consequences. The county found her guilty of fraudulent document preparation, and she received a fine. The months that followed were tough. I grieved the loss of the marriage and the family I thought I'd had. But gradually, I started to rebuild my life. I worked on my garden, planted new flowers, and spent more time with my father. One morning in early March, I was standing on the porch, sipping my coffee. The sun was just rising, and the garden was starting to come alive. I looked at the house, knowing that it was truly mine. I'd fought for it, and I'd won back my life. Some things you don't know are yours until someone tries to take them from you, and some things you don't know you're capable of until your world falls apart.